You know what's wild, man? Sometimes in combat sports, you get these matchups that feel almost mythical, like they shouldn't even be real. That's what this Crawford versus Canelo moment was. On one side, you've got Canelo, the guy everybody called untouchable, the face of boxing, the dude who built his name by walking through absolute killers. And then out of nowhere, here comes Crawford, cool as ice, no drama, no trash talk, just this quiet assassin energy, stepping up into a world people swore he couldn't survive in. And the crazy part, from the opening bell, it wasn't survival, it was dominance. It was like watching somebody bend reality because everything we thought we knew about power, about size, about who controls the ring, Crawford flipped it upside down. That's not just a fight, that's history being rewritten right in front of your eyes. Man, think about this for a second. You've got Terence Crawford, a guy who wasn't supposed to be the money fight, wasn't the global superstar that Canelo was, but what he just pulled off. That's history. We're talking about the first man in the modern four-belt era to become undisputed in three different weight classes. That's not just stacking up wins, that's rewriting the entire playbook of boxing greatness. And here's what blows my mind. He did it the hard way against the toughest possible opponent. Most guys, when they move up, they cherry pick a belt holder, go after the weakest link, and then parade around with that strap like they conquered the world. Not Crawford. He went after the guy, the cash cow, the face of boxing. And not only did he fight him, he beat him in a way that left no room for excuses. That's legacy. You could feel it when the fight ended, man, like we all just witnessed a piece of sports history that's going to be talked about for decades. People will look back and say, remember when Bud Crawford walked into Canelo's house in his weight on the biggest stage possible and just dismantled him? That's Ali-level storytelling. That's Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hagler kind of stuff, where the fight itself becomes bigger than the belts. Because the belts, yeah, they matter, but what really matters is what it represents, the evolution of boxing, the way we look at greatness. And right now, there is nobody else who has done what Crawford just did. Nobody. He's standing alone at the top of the mountain, and the crazy part, he's still hungry. You watch the way he carried himself after the fight, calm, collected, almost like he expected it. That's when you realize legacy for him isn't about the money or the hype. It's about proving he's the best fighter on the planet, period. And now, history backs him up. You got to really step back and look at what just happened here, because this wasn't just a guy winning a fight. This was a smaller man walking into the cage, or in this case, the ring, against someone who has made a career out of being the bully, the bigger, stronger, heavier fighter, and flipping that script upside down. Canelo Alvarez is no joke, man. This guy has been campaigning at super middleweight, even light heavyweight, knocking dudes out who are walking around at 190 pounds easy. He's a tank, compact, powerful, built to break guys down. And then here comes Terence Crawford, a guy who literally started his career at lightweight, 35 pounds. And people are saying there's no way he carries his power up. There's no way his frame can handle the pressure. He's too small. But what did we see? We saw a master neutralize size. We saw technique dismantle brute force. Canelo tried everything, cutting off the ring, throwing those patented body hooks that normally fold people in half, trying to bully his way forward. And Crawford didn't back down. He didn't run. He stood in the pocket, picked his shots, and countered with such precision that size just evaporated as an advantage. That's what makes this fight insane to talk about. Because when you beat the giant, it's not about muscles anymore. It's about brains. It's about composure. It's about who can execute under pressure. Crawford showed that it doesn't matter if a guy's bigger, stronger, more intimidating. If your skill set is sharper, if your timing is tighter, you can make that giant look human. And that's what's so inspiring about this. It's a reminder that in combat sports, the laws of physics bend to the laws of mastery. Crawford took the narrative that size rules everything and tore it up, proving that the little guy with enough skill, enough grit, and enough fight IQ can walk into the lion's den and not only survive, but dominate. That's legendary stuff right there. What blows my mind about this fight is just how technically brilliant Crawford is when you actually slow it down and look at the sequences, because people sometimes underestimate how high level his skill set is. This dude doesn't just throw punches, he paints pictures in there, he sets traps 3 moves ahead like a grandmaster in chess, and he does it all while making it look effortless. You watch him switch stances mid-combination, going from orthodox to southpaw and back like it's the most natural thing in the world, and that completely scrambles his opponent's reads. Canelo is a guy who's used to dictating the pace, used to walking dudes down and forcing them into mistakes, but every time he tried to get set, Crawford disrupted him. It was the timing, man, the rhythm breaks, the feints that froze Canelo for just a split second. And in that window, Crawford would slide in that straight shot down the pipe or that sneaky counterhook that you didn't even see coming. That's the genius of Crawford. He's not trying to overwhelm you with volume. He's trying to dismantle you with precision. And when he lands, it's not just a punch. It's an exclamation mark that says, I'm in control. You can see Canelo's frustration building as the fight goes on because every time he thought he solved the puzzle, Crawford changed the locks. That's what separates good fighters from once-in-a-generation talents, the ability to adapt on the fly, to never give the same look twice, to always stay a half step ahead in the mental game. It's surgical, man. It's like watching a brain surgeon work with gloves on, except the patient is trying to knock your head off at the same time. Crawford's technical brilliance in this fight wasn't flashy. It wasn't about spinning back fists or crazy haymakers. It was about absolute mastery of fundamentals layered with creativity and calm under fire. He proved that when you have that kind of arsenal, size, power, and pressure don't mean a damn thing if you can't touch the guy clean, and Canelo just couldn't. One of the most underrated parts of this whole thing is the psychological warfare that went down inside that ring, because you don't beat a guy like Canelo just with your fists. You've got to beat him in the mind too. This is a guy who's fought everybody, who's been in the spotlight since he was a teenager, who's carried the weight of an entire country on his back every time he stepped into the ring. He's used to having that aura of invincibility, that intimidation factor, where guys are already half beaten before the first bell because they buy into the myth of Canelo Alvarez. But Crawford? Man, Crawford didn't buy an ounce of it. From the walkout to the first exchange, you could see in his eyes, calm, cold, locked in, like he already knew how this story was going to play out. He didn't flinch at the pressure. He didn't crumble when Canelo closed the distance. He actually smiled when shots were exchanged, like he was feeding off that intensity. That gets in a guy's head, especially a guy who's used to being the one who dictates the emotional tempo of a fight. Crawford flipped that script. He forced Canelo to second guess. He made him hesitant. He put doubt in his mind, and once doubt creeps in, it's like a virus. It spreads, it weakens you, it changes how you throw, how you commit, how you defend. And the way Crawford carried himself, man, it was like he was saying, I'm not just here to fight you, I'm here to expose you, to show the world that I can stand in front of the boogeyman and not blink. That's mental warfare at its finest. He didn't need trash talk, he didn't need theatrics, it was all composure, presence, and execution. That's terrifying for any opponent because now every guy watching knows this isn't just about Crawford's fists, it's about his mind. And in fighting, the mind can be the sharpest weapon of all. When you step back and really absorb what this fight means, it's not just about one guy winning or losing, it's about the entire balance of power in boxing shifting in real time. For years, Canelo Alvarez has been the face of the sport, the pay-per-view king, the guy everybody had to beat if they wanted to claim greatness. He was the measuring stick. And now, with Crawford beating him, that crown doesn't just slip, it gets yanked off and placed on a new head. This isn't just a victory, it's a seismic shift in legacy. Crawford was already considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet, but now he's elevated into that rare air where people start mentioning his name alongside the all-time greats. Because think about it, how many fighters in history have dared to move up in weight, fight a bigger man in his prime, and not only survive but dominate? That's the kind of stuff that carves your name in stone. This fight will be replayed, analyzed, debated for decades, not just because of the upset factor, but because of what it symbolizes. That pure skill, when executed flawlessly, can topple empires. Canelo's legacy isn't erased. Don't get me wrong, he's still one of the greatest of his era, but this loss changes the narrative. Now he's the guy who met the smaller man and couldn't figure him out, the guy who got outthought, out-timed, and outfought. Meanwhile, Crawford's legacy skyrockets. Kids in gyms are going to be watching his fights to learn how to fight smarter, how to fight with patience, how to make your brain your deadliest weapon. This wasn't just Crawford winning a belt. This was him etching his place in the story of boxing history. And every great fighter dreams of that kind of moment. He seized it. He owned it. And from this day on, the conversation about who runs boxing has to include Terence "Bud" Crawford at the top. At the end of the day, this wasn't just a fight. This was a seismic shift. This was the night where Crawford ripped the script out of boxing's hands and said, no, this is how greatness looks. And that's the thing, man. Greatness isn't loud. It doesn't need fireworks. It's quiet, calculated, lethal, and undeniable. That night, Canelo didn't just lose a fight. He lost the aura, the myth, that sense of being untouchable. And Crawford, he walked out with more than a win. He walked out with a legacy. Years from now, people are going to look back and say that was the night boxing changed. And whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny it. Bud Crawford is the real deal, the guy who proved that skills, discipline, and an iron mind can topple even the biggest giant. That's the story. That's the truth.